Engine 1, engine 51, engine 6, engine 7, ladder 1, ladder 7, 601, 603, 601, respond to line, building 5.
Hello, my name is Michael James. I'm a major with the Oklahoma City Fire Department, and I'm here today to talk to you about wildland fires, or grass fires, that we have every year. But before we get into what we can do to help protect our properties and our homes, I'd like to talk to you about the three main causes of them. Number one is going to be improperly discarded smoking materials, people driving down the road, getting done with a cigarette and flipping it out the window. The second main cause of wildland fires is going to be illegal trash burning. In the greater Oklahoma City area, it is against the law to burn trash. The best way to get rid of a lot of yard waste, such as dead limbs, maybe grass clippings like after when we scalp our lawns, is on Big Trash Day. Oklahoma City does have a program in place to help us get rid of excessive yard waste, such as after the last ice storm, a burn permit program. But due to zoning requirements, we would have to send a local fire station representative or a code enforcement officer to come out and inspect your site. There are size limitations as to whether or not you could take advantage of this program. It would have to be 150 feet from any structure on your property or 500 feet from your closest neighbor's structure. If you don't have that kind of size, then you wouldn't be able to take advantage of this program. Now, the third main cause of grass fires that we have will be children playing with fire. As we all know that our children need to be supervised to help prevent this type of fire from starting. When we look at our property, it sometimes helps to break it down into smaller areas. Consider our home to be a bullseye, and around that, zones. Now, in Zone 1, this is the area that should be well irrigated and encircle the structure for at least 30 feet on all sides. As a minimum safe distance, we could extend it if we could. It provides space for fire suppression equipment in the event of emergency. Fire rigs, as we all know, are very large, and we're going to need the additional room to get around your structure in case that there is an emergency. The exterior of your home should be in good repair. All exposed wood surfaces should be freshly painted or treated, and all crawl spaces and accesses should be covered, such as porch, floor, roof, or attic openings. They should be enclosed or screened off to keep embers and sparks from entering the structure. You want to use a wire mesh screen with openings no wider than about 1/8 of an inch. You want to keep your roofs and rain gutters free from debris such as leaves or dead limbs. Consider installing gutter guards if possible. This prevents sparks from blowing up on your roof, rolling down, and getting leaf and plant material that may be stuck in your gutters and catching that on fire. If you have a roof with wood shake shingles, you need to consider replacing them as soon as possible with less combustible roofing materials, such as a Class A asphalt shingle, terracotta, or metal as soon as possible. You need to mow your lawn regularly and dispose of your grass clippings properly. On your final cut of the year, make sure that you cut your grass as short as possible to reduce the risk of the fire spreading to your home. You should remove all combustible shrubs such as cedars, sage, and evergreens that are within 20 feet of your home due to the fact that they produce oils that make them highly combustible and they burn very hot. You should also remove shrubs from underneath the trees inside of your safe zone due to the fact that they could cause the fire to go from the ground to them to your treetops, which then would spread to your roof. You need to make sure that you prune your trees and shrubs up to 6 feet to 10 feet from the ground and remove the leaf clutter, dead and overhanging branches from your trees. Give yourself the added protection with fuel breaks like driveways, gravel walkways, and lawns. This prevents the fire from being able to advance unimpeded up to our homes. We want to make sure that we stack our firewood at least 30 feet away from the home, and to make sure that we store our flammable materials, liquids, and solvents in metal containers outside of your home, and at least 30 feet away from the structures and wooden fences. Provide emergency vehicle access with properly constructed driveways and roadways, at least 12 feet wide with adequate turnaround space. Remember, our fire rigs are awful large, and we need to have the extra room so that we can get in and get out of your property fast so that we can stop the fire. Now when we look at Zone 2, you're probably looking at something of at least 15 feet in width, if not a little bit larger. Plants should be low growing and the irrigation system should extend into this section to make sure that this is still a well-watered area. You want to remove all your ladder fuels from this area. As we said before, we don't want the fuel to allow the fire to spread from the ground up into the tops of the trees, because once it does that, it can actually move faster and bypass a lot of the fire breaks that we might have in place, such as our driveways and gravel pathways. When we come to Zone 3, it's a little further out. This is the area that we're going to place low-growing plants and well-spaced trees, remembering to keep the volume of vegetation or the fuel low. Zone 4 is the furthest zone from the structure and is a natural area. This is also could be looked at as being your perimeter area. You want to make sure that you thin the vegetation selectively here and remove the highly flammable foliage. If possible, mowing or disking a 15-foot path around the perimeter of your property can help to prevent the spread of fire onto your land. A few closing issues about what we've discussed today. Let's once again look at the three main causes of why grass fires start. 1. Never discard smoking materials out of a moving vehicle. This is one of the major causes of grass fires along the roadway. Number 2, remember that it is illegal to burn trash in the greater Oklahoma City area. And number 3, keep matches and lighters safely stored away from children. Some other things that we need to remember are to please report any illegal or unsafe burning as soon as possible. Also, make sure you obey all burn bans. And remember, if you start a fire and it gets out of control, you are legally responsible for any damage caused. The best way to get rid of a lot of yard waste is on Big Trash Day. If you believe that you qualify for our Burn Permit program, make sure you check in with our local fire station to see if we can assist you with that.
The bear climbed over the mountain, the bear climbed over the mountain, the bear climbed over the mountain, and what do you think he saw? What do you think he saw? What do you think he saw? The bear climbed over the mountain, the bear climbed over the mountain, the bear climbed over the mountain, and what do you think he saw?
Hello, today we're here on the northeast side of Oklahoma City to take a look at a typical grass fire that we had in this area and to show you what the people did at this home that kept their place safe, even with fire encroaching upon it. I'm here today with Major Kevin Stoneking of Fire Station 27. He's a 27-year veteran of Oklahoma City Fire Department. Fire Station 27 is located northeast 63rd and Westminster, and it's one of Oklahoma City's urban-rural interface stations. And these are the type of fires that Major Stoneking and his crew fight on a yearly basis.
We've recently made this fire, and it's pretty typical of the fires that we deal with a lot out here in the northeast side of the city. As you can see, there's quite a few cedar trees, and that's a high fuel load. And one of the problems we have with having cedar trees too close to people's homes is keeping the fire off the home. This is a good example of somebody that's kept their place clean and enabled us to stop the fire, as you said, without any damage to the home. The biggest thing is the hygiene around the home, not stacking any combustibles next to the house. We'd like to see at least a 30-foot area that's clear of anything that'll burn, especially in the high fire danger times of the year that we're getting into now. Firewood stacked next to a house is a common problem, even dog houses, trash cans. It helps us. Lowering the fuel load around the house will enable us to protect your home, where sometimes we may not. If there's too much fuel around it, we may not be able to keep the fire off your house. And this house was well protected due to the homeowner's actions of keeping their place clean.
And this also goes back to when we look at the driveway that they've got here, when we talk about having fire breaks that people put in their place, whether it be a gravel drive.
Sure.
And also making sure that they have the open clearance to be able to get the fire.
Exactly, and that's a good point. The access is so important to us. We have to get our equipment in position between the fire and your house. And if we don't have the access to get the rigs in there, that lessens our chances of being able to keep the fire off your home.
Now in this situation here, we can see that the fire really did encroach pretty close to their home. Was there anything that these people did by maybe putting water down or sprinkler systems, anything that they could do?
They did have their sprinkler system going, and we would encourage homeowners, if they see a fire is coming to their property, get the sprinklers out and start wetting things down, and that did help us in this case. But as you can see from the fuel load on this side, that the fire was burning very intensely on this side. It slowed down because they kept their grass mowed low. We had good access through the drive. We had a natural fire break, and it gave us good access to keep this home safe.
Now, did this fire behave as most grass fires on an average do?
Yes, this was a rapidly moving fire. The winds were 35 miles an hour out of the south, and it was moving very fast. The humidity was very low. It was a critical fire danger day.
Major Stone King, let's go ahead and take a look around the building and see the other things that these people did right to make sure that their homes were safe.
Sure. As you can see, we've got a man-made fire break here that is always we'll use to our advantage. It helps us with access and keeping the fire off the house. You can see the fire burned right up to the driveway and stopped.
Now, is that kind of surprising considering the amount of fire load that we have over here?
Absolutely. I mean, the cedar trees are notorious. They have a lot of oil content, and they burn very hot, very fast. And we had a lot of fire just over this fence. And for us to be able to stop it is just a testimony to these homeowners keeping their places clean, and it's helping us save their homes.
So by keeping your perimeter low like this, you really do increase your chances of not having this fire expand onto your place.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you want to move a little further on up here?
Yeah, I see one thing that we could touch on here. This appears to be some kind of an outbuilding that I could see a problem with. They've got some vegetation growing really close to the building, and there's a vent here. If this had caught on fire, this could have allowed the sparks and embers to get inside this building. If there's anything combustible in there, we could have started a fire inside.
And so then you also stand the potential of whatever this is catching fire, then you're going to have increased embers, which is of course going to spread the fire.
More fuel, more embers, and more problems for us.
Okay, as we're taking a look around, I'm looking more toward the house. I see the other vegetation there. Is it all vegetation we have a problem with, or just certain types?
It's more the taller vegetation with more oil content. Some of the lower growing stuff we don't have near as much problem with. It's all about fuel. The more fuel, the more problems we have. There's some things up here that they've done well that we can go look at.
So basically it's still going to always come down to fuel reduction. If we can reduce the fuel load, we're going to reduce our risk in the long run.
Yeah, and it's not just plants that's fuel load. I mean, there's trash cans, firewood, dog houses. Anything stacked to your house that can burn is going to cause us problems on being able to keep the fire off your house.
So basically patio furniture, just any clutter that may be, like a lot of people, maybe I'm not the best housekeeper. If I'm leaving things laying around out in my yard, any of that could be a potential fire hazard.
Yeah, absolutely, but there's a season too. I mean, when it's spring and we're getting lots of rain and everything is growing well, you know, having to move patio furniture back and stuff probably is not necessary. But we're going into the high fire danger season, and that's when people need to be more vigilant and recognizing the things they need to do to help us keep your house safe.
I know that we were talking about the vegetation over there and by the vent and how that can be a danger. Now I know a lot of people are going to say, well, you know, is all vegetation a problem, or, you know, are there things that we can have around our home?
We're not asking people not to have vegetation and flower beds. I mean, we all like to have a flower bed around the house. This is a good example of low growing and of low fuel load on a home that is perfectly fine. Not only that, it's surrounded by a man-made fire break, so the chances of a fire getting there are lessened, except possibly embers. I do see along the guttering, A lot of times they get filled with leaves and debris and sticks and stuff. We like to see people that have gutter guards on their guttering, because when you have a fire of this intensity, the number of embers and ash that's coming off of this is tremendous, and it starts spot fires. And anywhere an ember can land, if it landed in the gutter that is full of leaves, the chances of getting the roof on fire are highly increased.
Okay, so that would be the number one reason why we want to have those on there, make sure that we clean out our gutters.
Keep your gutters clean and use gutter guard.
Okay. Now, when we talk about our roofs, I see here that they've got a composition roof or asphalt shingles. Are there any type of shingles that we need to be concerned about if we have?
If you've got the wood shake shingles, that I mean, we're seeing less and less of those, but those are combustible roofs. And when the time comes to replace your roof, I'd certainly look at going with a laminated shingle or an asphalt shingle. They're a lot more fire safe than the wood shake shingles.
Okay, and as we're now walking around to the back of this house, we understand that as, you know, people are living, and of course they're, you know, in this situation they're having animals that they're raising, there's certain things that you can do that'll make that a little bit more safer. Like as we take a prime example of looking right here, I like what they've done with their stored hay over here. It's at least 30 feet away from the structure. It's not going to be a problem should that ever catch. The only thing around here I might see a concern would be this trailer full of hay we have right here. With this same grass fire, if it had managed to come around the corner and got to there, there's a good chance you could have lost your barn and maybe even endangered your animals.
Absolutely. Well, one thing to point out, I mean, if you see a grass fire that is coming to your property, we've talked about it a little bit before, but setting out your sprinkler systems, moving things back away from your house that's combustible, make sure all the doors and windows are closed, and turn off your gas if you can to your house. Something like this, if I seen that this was coming, they could hook up that trailer and pull that hay out of there. You know, there's things that homeowners can do to prepare as the fire's moving towards your area.
On this property, we were able to show people what a homeowner was able to do right to make sure that his property wasn't negatively impacted by fire. Now, I know in a fire of this size right here, most likely we had someone who wasn't quite as vigilant in their efforts as they should have been. Is there maybe a bad example in this fire?
We're just across the street on this very fire. We lost a home.
All right, Major Stone King, as we can see, this is pretty much a prime example of a bad example.
Sure.
This is kind of one of those things that you can see as a vacant structure. When vegetation is allowed to encroach, this can be the ultimate result. Is there anything that you could add to why this happened this way?
Well, it's just the general upkeep. Obviously, this place was vacant, and they've let the vegetation get so close to the house, unlike our last house we just saw. But you can see the trees that were overhanging the roof, and those are ladder fuels. That's allowed that fuel to get up high. At the time, by the time we arrived at this house was fully involved, and there was nothing we could save here. We had to move on and try to stop the fire from the next house. And there we could go back again to the homeowners helping us keep their place clean, helps us stop the fire. We were unable to do it on this case.
So basically the life safety concerns that we have, making sure people are out of the area, if that's already been addressed and the structure is already pretty much fully involved, then we're not going to be able to spend a lot of time with that one.
Sure, we have more houses downwind that we need to address worse than because we can't save anything here, so we're moving on.
Major Stone King, I know that we've been talking a lot today about fuel loads and also about ladder fuels. And I know some people can be a little bit confused about really what is a ladder fuel and what do we mean by that?
Okay, what we mean by ladder fuel, that's a fuel, a continuous line of fuel that allows the fire to get up high. We've got some good examples here of these trees. You can see how high the flames had got up into the trees. And that a ladder fuel can be low-hanging branches. We like to see the homeowners cut the trees off 6 to 8 foot above the ground. Because if you have the fire burn underneath it and there's not a continuous line of fuel, it doesn't allow it to get up into the trees as much. So that's what we mean by ladder fuel.
Major Stone King, I know that we've kind of looked at two wildly different examples during this grass fire. But as we can both understand, grass fires cover a large area. Is there anything that people can do to help you?
Sure. There's first thing is any fire official, follow the instructions that they give you. If they tell you it's time to leave, it's time to leave. Get your kids and your pets and leave. The second thing, visibility at a grass fire is horrible. So we ask people, don't drive through the smoke and don't come out to see the grass fire. We've got people on the ground and reduced visibility, and traffic is always a hazard for us. So we really want to keep people away while we're trying to contain the grass fire.
Well, thank you, Major Stone King, for taking your time today to talk to us about the dangers of grass fires and what we can do to keep our families and property safe.
You're certainly welcome.